Hi, everybody. I want to show you how to get started on designing your ring project. So when you're making a ring, it's really important that it fits you. You don't want to go through all the work of making a ring and then you go to put it on and you can't get it past your knuckle. So the first thing you need to do is decide which finger you'd like to make the ring for. And then you need to measure that finger so that you know that when you measure your metal, you're getting the accurate size. So for example, I'm using this one as an example. You might remember the bracelet I made inspired by an ear of Indian corn. Well, I decided to make a matching ring too. We'll talk about the designs in just a minute. But the sizing, how did I know that this is the length of metal I needed to make a ring for my right pinky? Well, I measured. And what you want to do, have some strips of paper ready to go. I even cut up some junk mail that came and just used my scissors and cut some strips. You don't want to make them too wide. These are probably about ½ inch or so. I do have one wider one. I'll show you what you can do with that in just a minute. So taking my strip, you want to measure around the widest part of your finger. So for many of you, that's probably going to be the base of your finger. For me, I actually need to measure around my knuckle because that's a little bit wider. So if I measured around the base of my finger for my ring, I might not be able to get it past my knuckle to get it all the way onto my finger. So what I'm going to do instead is measure around my knuckle. And here's how we do it. You take your strip of paper, you wrap it around the widest part of your finger. Again, yours might be the base of your finger or it might be the knuckle. Where the paper overlaps the end, so I can see right here where it overlaps, I'm going to make a little mark with my pencil. Okay, so I've made a little mark where the paper overlaps. And then I'm going to use my scissors and I'm going to cut it right there. Okay, now I'm left with a strip of paper that is exactly the right size to fit my finger. Okay, so it comes around, the ends of the paper meet. Okay, if it looks a little bit too small, just try again. Just make another one until you have it right. Once you have one that's the right size, you can then, instead of measuring each time, I recommend you take it, put it up to your other strips of paper, mark those. Okay, so I'm lining up my edges. I'm getting some help here from Rosie. Hi, sweetie. Lining up my edges of my paper, making a little mark, and then I can cut it there and I know that I have another strip that's exactly the right size. So if I want to work on a couple designs for a ring that would fit my right pinky, I've got a couple of pieces of paper that are cut to just the right size. And you can cut several, or you might want to make some for other fingers as well, and then decide which one you want to use for your project. So, all right, so now that I have a piece of paper cut to a size that fits around my pinky and meets there, I can start designing. So some things you can think about. The design, totally up to you, but the ends just need to be able to come together because these rings get soldered closed, all right? I don't know if you can see, there's like a little solder line going from the top corner to the bottom on this one. My little corn ring, it's soldered together here, okay? So this little piece of paper is where you're going to draw out your design. Some students like to make a ring that matches their cuff bracelet. So in this case, I've got a little peacock feather design that kind of wraps around, and it matches a bracelet that I had made using the peacock feather. Okay, that's a pretty high ring. You want to make sure that you can still bend your fingers. If you make a band that's too high, you're not going to be able to bend it. And then it's really not, that's another way to check the fit. Not only does it go on the finger, but can you actually bend your knuckle? Okay, so you can draw out a design from one edge to the next. You can keep your edges straight if you want, so that when you solder it, I don't know if you can see there's just like a fine line. Those ends come together and get soldered closed. You might like the idea of a ring that has kind of a focal point. Like, I'm partial to hearts, so I've made a lot of hearts over the years. So I've got my heart there. It tapers down to a thin band so that when I wear it, the big heart is on top, but inside I can comfortably close my hand and I don't have anything tall blocking my bend in my knuckle. So I'm going to just use a heart as an example because it's a symmetrical design. If you want to make a symmetrical design that has a band that maybe tapers down so that it's smaller around your finger, doesn't have to be a heart. It can be anything, but I'm just going to demonstrate using a heart. So you can take your strip of paper that's pre-measured to fit your finger. You can bend it in half. Okay, and kind of like when, you've all done at some point on the folded side, I can draw half a heart and the band coming out from that, cut it out, and then when I open it, it's double. So I'm just going to take a second here and draw half a heart. I'm going to draw a band that comes from the heart, tapers all the way to the end of my paper. So right now, it looks like this. Okay, I'm going to cut it out on that outline, but not cutting out the heart. I'm going right to the band. It's all going to be one piece. And I can cut around and down. Okay, so now I've cut it out. So when I open it up, I've got my full heart with a band that comes out evenly on either side. So as you can imagine, when I make this out of metal and I bring those ends together on the back, I'll be able to solder it closed. Okay, and like we have here. Right, soldered closed in the back. So to get that inside cut out, I just drew a second heart inside, and then on the metal, I drilled the hole, cut out that inner heart. And then on this one, I added some really tiny drilled holes with a very fine drill bit. This one, I did a lot of cutting and sewing. Okay. This one, a lot of cutting and sewing as well. Let me pause for just a sec. Okay, so like I said, you might want to do something really tall in the front, like this one. This heart is pretty big in the front. It comes almost all the way up to my knuckle, tapers down to a thinner band. So then you would start with just a taller piece of paper. So it's the same length as the other ones that I had measured. I can fold this one in half, meet my edges. Again, I could draw my half a heart with band, cut out around that, open it up, okay? So if you want something really big on the front, that's fine. You just have to make sure you taper it down on the sides so that, again, it's comfortable. You can bend your knuckle. That's important. So that is how you measure. So what you want to do, again, is get several strips, measure around the widest part of your finger, cut them where it overlaps. So make a little mark with a pencil or a Sharpie where they overlap. Cut it there. And then use that cut piece against other pieces to mark them and cut them. So you've got a lot of strips in just the right size, and start making some little paper patterns. It'll be very much like the cuff, where once you come up with a pattern, we'll rubber cement it to a little piece of metal and you'll start cutting it out. Okay, please email me if you have any questions. I'm really looking forward to seeing your designs. Thanks, bye.